opportunity to do several of these student celebrations, and each time it just seems to get better. So would you please join me as we begin by standing in the unison to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Thank you. It gives me great pleasure in welcoming everyone here as we honor some of our amazingly talented students. From the track field of competition, to the volleyball court, to the golf course stairways, and to the lights and cameras of our own rep theater, to the Paper Mill Playhouse, the students that I am about to present to you are enormously talented. These young people who are assembled here tonight are to be congratulated for their dedication and perseverance, for working together as a team, for their fine sportsmanship, for their camaraderie, and for the leadership they demonstrate, both on and off the field or the stage. Parents, thank you for all of your efforts as well. You juggle schedules to ensure that they get to practices, games, rehearsals, and performances. You are there to cheer them on. Please know that your support makes a huge difference. Students, the resolutions that are presented this evening will highlight your outstanding accomplishments. We are very proud of what you have achieved this year, and it is our pleasure and honor to acknowledge you this evening. So let's begin. At this time, I would like to call forth Sarah Miller and Courtney Nemeth and Deb Brody, our board member. Mrs. Brody will read a resolution on behalf of Sarah, and then Courtney will add some comments about all the wonderful things that Sarah has accomplished.
Whereas Sarah Miller has been dedicated to her academics while also excelling and growing in her musical abilities, and whereas Sarah Miller has been a member of multiple Scotch Plains family choral and instrumental ensembles such as concert choir, sled choir, Los Cantadores, wind ensemble, and moonblowers, additionally performing as a soloist. And whereas Sarah Miller has participated in repertory theater for all 4 years of high school, acting as student music director for 2 years, and being nominated for a Paper Mill Playhouse Rising Star Award during the years of 2016, 2017, and 2018 for the following performances. Best Supporting Actress as Princess Puffer in The Mystery of Edwin Drood, Best Leading Actress as Rose Alvarez in Bye Bye Birdie, and Best Leading Actress as Princess Winifred in Once Upon a Mattress. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Family Board of Education recognizes and congratulates Sarah Miller for bringing pride and recognition to our schools. Be it further resolved that the Scotch Plains Family Board of Education extends our best wishes to Sarah Miller as she prepares to begin her undergraduate studies at Princeton University.
I have had the pleasure of directing Sarah for the past 2 years, but when I found out that I would be speaking for her tonight, I reached out to Matthew Capitacasa, a former Scotch Plains high school student who directed Sarah in The Mystery of Edwin Drood, which I think was her favorite performance. And he was recently admitted to Juilliard writing program, so I'm just going to read his words because as much as I have a lot that I could say, his words are beautiful. So, Sarah is quite simply one of the most talented students I've ever worked with at Scotch Plains Stanwood. She possesses remarkable instincts, a deep sense of empathy, killer timing, a terrific voice, and a dancing prowess that surprised maybe even her. If you've seen any of the recent rep productions, you've seen just how inventive Sarah can be on stage, but I feel privileged that I also got to watch her in rehearsal as well. She works tirelessly to refine her performance, to deepen her characterizations, and to keep things alive and interesting. That work continued right up to the closing night of each production when Sarah was still discovering new layers and new opportunities for laughs. Suffice it to say, she's a big ham. But ultimately, Sarah is someone who wants with you on a production, and not just for her talents. She is engaged, inquisitive, insightful, and willing to go on the journey. Her sense of humor, sly and good-natured, rarely flags, but she knows when and where to employ it. I've yet to meet a teenager so self-aware. Really, she's a wonderful collaborator, choosing not to foreground her ability, but rather the work. She puts in vast amounts of effort and complains not a bit. She is the best kind of leader, egoless. I will risk both sentimentality and cliche here and quote a famous Oscar Hammerstein lyric. This is so very true. It is a very ancient saying, but it's an honest thought that if you become a teacher, by your pupils you are taught. I think the entire staff, yes, would agree with me in saying that we've all learned so much from Sarah, so my thanks to her. Personally, I admire your grace, how humble you are, your beauty of spirit and soul. I know you will take the advice that you gave your fellow seniors at the Senior Music Awards the other night. Do what you love. I know you're going to be happy and very successful.
And now at this time, it's my pleasure to call forth our boys volleyball team, Amy Winkler, and coaches Brock Moore and Matthew Ritter.
Whereas the 2018 Scotch Plains Stanwood High School varsity Whereas the 2018 Scotch Plains Stanwood High School varsity boys volleyball team had a remarkable first season as a varsity program. This team earned an overall record of 20 wins and 4 losses, earning the Hackensack Tournament Championship as well as the Union County Conference Championship. And whereas the varsity boys volleyball team earned the top seed in the Union County Interscholastic Athletic Conference Championship and earned the school's first boys volleyball county championship by defeating Summit High School in sets. And whereas the varsity boys volleyball team also advanced to the quarterfinals of the New Jersey Interscholastic Athletic Association tournament. And whereas the 2018 Scotch Plains Stanwood High School varsity boys volleyball team are Marcelo Capuccio, Braden Cook, Colin Donahue, Adam Glad, Ethan Johnston, Ryan Metzger, Joshua Morris, Michael Rinaldi, Peter Salesman, Joseph Varela, Stephen Verastro, and Evan Zakova. Whereas, did I say that wrong? Okay. I often get the names wrong, so I'm glad. Whereas members of the team were awarded with various honors from the state and conference associations, New Jersey Senior All-Stars, Adam Glad, Michael Rinaldi, and Ethan Johnson. All conference honors were earned by Ryan Metzger, Adam Glad, Ethan Johnston, Colin Donahue, Braden Cook, Marcelo Capuccio, Stephen Verastro, Peter Salesman, and Michael Rinaldi. And whereas the 2018 Scotch Plains Stanwood High School varsity boys volleyball team, directed by head coach Brock Moore and assistant coach Matthew Ritter, exhibited outstanding talent, dedication, and teamwork throughout the season. And whereas this team received recognition by student staff and the Scotch Plains and Stanwood communities for their outstanding efforts and achievements, now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Stanwood Board of Education recognizes and congratulates the 2018 varsity boys volleyball team and their coaches, Brock Moore and Matthew Ritter, for an outstanding season of volleyball and extends to them best wishes for their continued success.
I'd like to also point out that we have 2 members of the JV team here. They went to the Union County, they don't have a state tournament, but they went to the Union County tournament, seated 5th. And unbeknownst to us, they had a little fight in them, and they ended up also winning the Union County championship. The easiest way for me to sum up these guys and the amount of work they actually had the last 3 years is when I left the Scout Life 3 years ago to help start this program. I remember the night custodians and the athletic trainer and everyone was going, watching these guys pick up a ball for the first time and trying to learn how to play the game. And I remember one of them whispering in my ear saying, "Are you sure you made the right decision?" With a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, and this internal quality had in them, you see what they are 3 years later. Now, it's easy for me to keep on congratulating on their athletic abilities and their accomplishments on the court, but one thing stuck in my head this entire season, and unbeknownst to them, I never told them this, but throughout the season, referees would come up to me and say, "You guys are a first-year team?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, you got a really good team." I said, "Thank you." He goes, "No, you don't understand. They can play, but we're not talking about that. They're the most respectful, the most humble, the most hardworking team we've ever seen." I said, "That says a lot about their character." It's an old cliche that they say, "Good guys finish last." Well, you just guys broke the rules, so good job. These are the guys.
And now it is time to sign on as 12th Board Member Amy Boroff. I would like coaches Rich McGriff and Jeff Cagle to come forward, along with Justin Sanders, Jacob Lee, Kyle Esteban, Dwight Layler, and Trinity Hart. Whereas, and Ben Fleischer, come forward. Whereas the 2018 Scotch Plains Stanwood High School varsity spring track team continued to have an outstanding year. Individual athletes as well as relay teams earned championships at the county and conference levels and advanced to the state group finals. And whereas the 4x100 team of Justin Sanders, Jacob Lay, Kyle Estevine, and Dwight Baylor ran a North 2 Group 4 best time of 42.34, earning a North 2 Group 4 sectional title. And whereas Trinity Hart set a school record in the long jump of 18 feet and 1.75 inches, earning the Watchung Conference and Union County Interscholastic Athletic Conference Championships, and qualified as a top 5 long jumper for the Group 4 meet. And whereas Ben Fleischer qualified for the Group 4 championship as a 3,200 meter competitor after winning the Watchung Conference and Union County Interscholastic Athletic Conference Championship with times of 9.41.89 and 9.36.70. And whereas Jacob Lay continued his personal success by qualifying for the Group 4 meet in the 200 meter dash and earned the Union County Interscholastic Athletic Conference Championship in the 200 meter dash by running a time of 22.11 seconds. And whereas these track athletes provided a spark for the entire spring track team to improve their performance. Led by head coaches Rich McGriff and Jeff Cole, and the support of assistant coaches Ali Nida and Dan Doherty, Peter Kane, Jonathan Stapp, and Ken Hernandez exhibited outstanding talent, dedication, and teamwork throughout the season. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Stanwood Board of Education recognizes and congratulates Justin Sanders, Jacob Lay, Kyle Estevine, Dwight Wheeler,
Trinity Hart, Ben Fleischer, and their coaches for an outstanding season and extends to them best wishes for their continued success.
Well, we always say about when it comes to running, it's an individual sport, but it's also, we have a team sport combined in with it. And what all these young men and this young lady here show is the perfect example of what work will do for you and what caring about your other teammates will do for you. We knew that they were going to be good at our 4x1 relay game, but every year we go in, we don't know what that team is going to be because everybody has to compete and earn that spot. And when it comes to track and field, it's a friendly competition, but it's a competition by the better you do, the better people around you become. The harder you push your teammates, and the better you make them. And for these young men to get to that level where they become sectional champs in that 4x1, when you do a lot of other team sports, somebody can claim what they did, if you can cover your guy or you did this and you can hide in there. The individual part was not team spot. We know what you did. We know everybody, how far you threw, how high you jump, how fast you run. The only thing we use is a stopwatch and we do tape measures. That's what our sport is based on. And so you know what your performance was. The other thing about running is anybody, I said it in the wintertime, I think we've all tried to done some running before, and it's not an easy thing to do. And sure, they're young people, but people run, it's hard. And all you have to do to make it stop could be uncomfortable, just ease up a little bit. But instead, to get to the level where they are, when you get to that point where it hurts, you get to that point where it's uncomfortable, they push and they do better. So obviously, they are an example of what our school teaches them, and more so what their parents teach them. You teach them the value of hard work and dedication. So thank your parents out there for allowing us to work with your children, and we really truthfully be blessed to have opportunity to work here and have your children for a little while. Thank you.
Thank you. Coach Griffin talked about the boys 4x100, so I'm going to talk about the other kids. We're going to start with Trinity. Trinity's a senior. She's going to Villanova next year. She's going to compete on the track and field team. And most of the kids that we get in to the program, they don't have any or much prior track and field experience. But Trinity was a little bit different. She did a lot of club track growing up. Her mom's in the audience. Mom's a high school track coach also. So she's been around the sport for her whole life pretty much, and it runs through her blood. And Trinity's been a very good competitor for us over the last 3 years. But this year she decided that she was going to take it to a higher level. She was out working with me in the summer. She got her paperwork in so she could train with me in the fall, and those were things that she hadn't done before. So rather than being an athlete 6 months a year, she said, I'm going to be an athlete 12 months of the year. And what happened was, once winter track started, she was in the best shape that she'd ever been going into winter track. So to start with big things, and she had a very good winter season. She did a lot of good long jumping for us. Got into the 17-foot range, which she hadn't before. Like Coach Griff said, we use tape measures and stopwatches. So that's how we evaluate how good your performance is. We don't take votes on anything like that. We don't have judges. Clean marks in the sand, and we use a tape measure. Going into the spring, and things just went to another level for her. She's somebody who hadn't had quite the success that she was looking for. This season, she got to the point where she was conference champ in a long jump. She was county champ in a long jump. She put together jumps that she'd never done before. We always had a problem getting her on the takeoff board. She was leaving a lot on the runway. We finally got her on the board. and that's part of what took her to the next level. The technique work, Coach McGriff, Mr. Doherty, Ms. Nidek all did a great job with her. She wound up qualifying. We have a 4-event limit. She qualified for the Group 4 championship in 4 events. Most people do happy to get there for 1 event. And then she kept going. She qualified for the Meet of Champions in 3 of those 4 events. We entered our 4x100 team to 3rd place overall finish in the entire state in the Meet of Champions on Saturday. Seniors, they start riding the string out, senioritis, things like that. Trinity went the other way with it. And we talked about it. I had Trinity in class in one of my ECAL classes. I've worked with her for 9 seasons plus the summer, so we spent a lot of time together. And we talk about how you're writing the final stories, the final chapter of your story at this time of the year. And it was up to you how you end this story and then get going on a new story. So Trinity's done a great job in writing her final chapters here, and we're all very proud of her. While I'm officially the girls' coach in the spring and Coach Chris the boys' coach, we don't run our team like that. We have a coaching staff and we coach our events, and we put our coaching personnel where they can best help the kids develop and do their best. So I've been Ben Fleischer's event coach for quite some time. Ben came to us in the winter of his freshman year. Thankfully, Mr. McKenna realized that Ben was a better runner than he was a soccer player. And he came to us and he did great things. And this year was really, he started coming along last spring, and he's really done a phenomenal job establishing himself as a top distance runner in the county. He's been first team all-county in cross country, in winter track, and spring track. So 3 seasons in a row, first team all-county. And this season, he really learned how to race, how to take control of races. We talked about what he needed to do to win these races. He went out in the conference meet. He won the race. He led most of the race, and he opened up a pretty big lead. And then the county meet, we wound up having a 1-day county meet because of some bad weather. And so we're just going to go after the 3200, and it's going to be a tough race out there. A couple kids from Westfield, and they've been one of the top teams in the state. And they're pulling some team tactics on Ben, and he was out there by himself, and he was leading most of the race. The kid from Westfield took the lead, and they were going back and forth. And the kid from Westfield took the lead in the last 200, and gapped him, come back on him, come back on him. And it's easy then, you're hurting bad. And I lived that life. I know what it feels like. And what Ben did is, I came this far, I'm not letting him beat me. And he just hammered down, came back on him, closed the gap, flew right by him, and the kid, he was hurting bad. Ben ran through it. It doesn't hurt as much when you come across the line first. It's sad that the season's coming to an end and we have to say goodbye to some of our seniors. But thank you for everything you've done. Thanks to our coaching staff for everything they've done. Thank you all for being here, and to the school board for recognizing us.
Now at this time, I'd like to call up board member Cindy Clancy, Coach Ryan Geraci, and the members of our conference. Come on up.
Whereas the 2018 South Plains Family High School Golf Team endured a season of dramatically cold and rainy weather and finished the season with a 13-3 record. And whereas at the start of the the season, the Raiders were successful in defending the Bomber Tournament in Middlesex County. And whereas the 2018 Scotch Plains Family High School golf team consists of the following students: Jimmy Bagdonis, Jared Bloom, Patrick Pork, Sam Caleo, Louis Danielle, Miguel Fontoura, Sean Ilanowski, John Williamson, Jonathan Yu. Whereas the golf team set a school record of scoring 308 at the Union County Tournament and were crowned the runner-up for the 2018 Union County Tournament, with Jimmy Bagdonis winning the individual county championship, only the fourth in school history. The school's 5th North 2 Group 3 sectional championship, scoring a 303 lead by Jared Bloom's 2 under par score of 70. The team's successful season culminated with a 7th place finish in the state tournament of champions, led by Louis Daniele's 5th place finish. The complete team, led by Coach Ryan Geraci, had an incredible year. Now therefore be it resolved that Scotch Plains Family Board of Education recognizes and congratulates the 2018 Scotch Plains Family High School golf team and their coach, Coach Ryan Geraci, for an outstanding season of golf and extends to them best wishes for their continued success.
They certainly look like they just came off the golf course. In all seriousness, though, I couldn't ask for a more dedicated team. These guys are fantastic. Even on their days off, you'll still find them practicing on their own, hitting balls in the range. A bunch of guys caddying on the weekends, learning on the greens, reading other people's putts, and just getting excited or watching Tiger shoot it over. So, they're so dedicated. With all that bad weather we had early in the season, they would always stop by my classroom and say, "Are we playing? Are we playing? Is there rain in the forecast? Is the golf course open?" They hated when we had to cancel, and it speaks to how much they love the game. Just to echo a few things that were mentioned already. It was a great season, 13-3, tough schedule. Had some really nice wins against teams like Cranford and GL, and a huge one-shot victory over Oratory Preps. Are always a tough competition. The Bombers Invitational, they did win and defend that title. Louis tied for second place overall that day, and all 4 of the guys that played, Louis, Jimmy Bagdonis, Jared Bloom, and Sam Clay, all finished in the top 10 in really tough, windy, blustery conditions in a field of about 60 guys. Next was at the Blue Devil Invitational, arguably one of the toughest high school golf tournaments in the state. Jimmy finished second place that day also in a field of over 100 golfers, so it was another great tournament. Multiple all-conference, multiple all-county mentions for this team as well. And then, as mentioned before, the county tournament. I know they're a bit disappointed, after shooting 308, going low and, hoping to win. And, 308 would win it 59 out of the last 60 years. And I know they were bummed out, even though they played so well. But I think after that day, they realized that they could play with the best teams in the state and they belong. And the cool thing about that day was when Jimmy won, once the team title was taken care of and they realized that there had to be a 2-man playoff for first place, Jimmy got to experience what a lot of PGA professionals experience every weekend. All the coaches and all the players that were finished with their round all gathered around the first tee, and Jimmy had a gallery following him down in that sudden death playoff. And it's a lot different when you got a bunch of eyes looking at you playing. So he withstood the pressure. When he pulled out that putt for the win, like the 4th time in school history, it was really a cool experience from my perspective to. Jimmy's a quiet guy, he's kind of humble, but it was cool to watch the team really get excited for him and embrace and run down the fairway to celebrate his victory. So that was an awesome day. And then the North 2 Group 3 state title, sectional title. That was another awesome day. Jared, I'll never forget from my perspective, watching him finish his round, drop his golf bag, and sprint towards me as fast as he could. He almost knocked me over. He was so excited to tell me about his round that day, so I couldn't have been happier for him. And that was a great day, very memorable. I'll never forget that one. 7th place at the tournament champions. I mean, we hung with the best teams in the state, and these guys really earned it. It seems like I mentioned a lot of the same names over and over again, but I mean, we couldn't have had this successful season without guys like Patrick Burke, Jonathan Yu, and Miguel Fontoura. I mean, they contributed a lot of really close victories in our regular matches, and we got 4 guys graduating this year, and some of those 3, along with Jimmy, are going to have to come back and keep it going. So we're looking forward to next year, and hopefully have another successful season. I want to thank them for all their hard work, their dedication, everything that they put into it. I want to thank the parents for their support, getting them to this point as well. I want to thank the Board of Ed, Dr. Hayes, the administration for giving me this opportunity to set this night up. And congratulations to all the other athletes and Sarah for all your accomplishments.
And now I'd like to invite our assistant principal for athletics, Ryan Miller, to give us a few closing remarks.
This is a unique, fantastic, unbelievably great night. We got to see Sarah Miller, who for 3 years I put her name on the signboard. I had her mom call me up and say, we have to try to fit this in. And what a remarkable accomplishment. A very good friend of mine was the director over at Columbia High School, and she explained to me what the Rising Stars Awards were. Holy cow, to get 3 in a row. Wow. It's as big as winning a state title 3 years in a row. So I couldn't be more proud, and so happy that I'm here and Sarah's here too. And we share our last name, so that's pretty great. To the athletes, you're amazing. I've said that to you throughout the spring. I feel very lucky to have inherited 2 coaches like Jeff Cagle and Rich McGriff, who are arguably the most notable, well-respected, renowned coaches in Union County as well as North Jersey. I don't know if you realize that when you're meeting these 2 men, 40 plus years experience between the 2 of them, and everywhere you go, when I got the job here 8-9 years ago, people said, oh my gosh, you have 2 great track guys. And yes, they said that about some other programs too, but I did remember that, and to you all, as well as the rest of that track staff, an amazing job. The athletes, you kept fighting. The weather was bad for you too, not just golf, so we recognize that, and you did a great job. To have the opportunity to work with Ryan Gracie, when Ryan took over golf, his first question was, how often can we practice and where can we go? And because of his dedication to practice, his dedication to getting these young men out on the course, you're seeing those results today. It helps that we have incredible talent coming in. So thanks, moms and dads, for putting golf clubs in their hands and letting them go off and play. And thank you, gentlemen, for having the heart to not be afraid to succeed. It's very difficult when you win a sectional title, because now the next round's even harder. So there are athletes out there who actually have a fear of success, because that means I have to go a little bit further. So thank you for not fearing success. Ron Staros is here. I remember 3 years ago when Ron knocked on my door and he said, I want to start boys volleyball. And I said, well, here's the laundry list of things you have to accomplish to get this done. And I called Dr. Hayes, I called Deb Serdaki, I said, well, we've got another one for volleyball. Let's see how this goes. And inside of months, which took other people years, he built the boys volleyball program. I then told him, I said, I've got a guy for you. We got to steal him from Piscataway, but I think we have the coach to get. And we stole Coach Brock because I think he's the best volleyball guy in Union County, if not North Jersey. I then didn't know that Mr. Ritter, the science teacher, was as adept at volleyball as he was, so we added a level. And then watched Mr. Ritter, and what a wonderful addition he's been. You guys are a first-year program. and you won a county title. That doesn't happen by accident. That doesn't happen. Because I love sharing this story, it's one of my favorites. Coach Brock did predict the county title. He predicted it in 2017 after the Spring Sports Awards. He was angry with Union County for setting up a one-day round-robin tournament, and he said, Mr. Miller, we have to get involved in this. We have to change it. We need a traditional tournament. Please make this happen, and I'm going to go win it. So I'm now in charge of volleyball for Union County. So states are next, so the underclassmen, we can only get better. Don't fear success. Have a great night.
So we have one last piece of business. Our Board Vice President, Karen Kulikowski, will do the honors.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. All the resolutions have been read and motioned, so since I didn't read one, can I second them? And then I second all those motions that have been read. All in favor? Aye. Any noes? Any abstentions? I don't think so. Motion's passed. Thank you. You can use your certificates. Congratulations.
The only thing I ask is that we conclude is if you're a senior, yes, we have to let you go. But if you're returning, make sure you're back here next year, so we're celebrating with you again. Thank you.
I'd like to call to order the open agenda meeting for June 14th, 2018. We've already met for the awards ceremony in the multipurpose room when we've done the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight we will have our instructional updates, and we will have additions to the agenda. They are 2 LET, 1S, out-of-district placements, 8S, matrix of forms, 5 BUS, related service vendors, 21 BUS, district general insurance, 35 BUS, 2018-19 IDEA grant, and 36 BUS 3M security window film. Previously, the New Jersey Board of Ed law is enacted to ensure the right of public to have notice and to be in attendance of public meetings at which any of the affected interests are discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted on the Board of Education offices located at 512 Cedar Street, Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Such notice was also provided in the written notice forwarded to the Times, Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, the Borough Clerk of Fanwood, and the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings as adopted March 30th, 2017. Before we do the instructional updates, in accordance with Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools bylaws 0164-0165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comments, with a maximum 2 minutes per speaker. When you come to the podium, please state your name and the town in which you reside.
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm Brendan Glickstein, and I live in Scotch Plains.
Thank you.
Okay. So obviously, all of us are here to talk about Coach Gary Wasserman. I'd like to just quickly add the stipulation that Coach Luke Petey, him and I have built an incredible relationship over the 4 years that I've been playing varsity tennis. He's a great guy, and everyone on the team who knows him is in love with him, and we all want him to continue being the junior varsity coach. With that stipulation, I'd just like to say that I've known Coach Gary Wasserman for 7 years. Obviously, over the past 4 years, I've worked with him as a varsity player on the Scotch Plains Fanwood High School boys tennis team. And it's, we know a lot of great coaches. We see them all around in our county. We have them at our school in a multitude of different sports. But it's not just the fact that Coach Wasserman is such a great tennis coach and such a great tennis player. It's that everyone here can tell you that he is just an incredible person, and he has touched all of us in different ways. He has shown us different things and taught us lessons that other coaches that I just don't feel have the capability of. In my experiences in tennis, I was named All-County as singles and doubles. I was a 2-year captain. I was a team MVP once. I've gone to play over 100 matches under Coach Wasserman in my career, and I've experienced incredible highs and I've experienced some pretty disturbing lows, and he's been there regardless of the situation. He's been there regardless of what it is that I'm doing, and it's just, I'm graduating next year. I'm a senior. Regardless of what happens here tonight, I will be in college next year. It's just the fact that there's former players here, there's current players here, and there's players of the future here. It's just the fact that what I got to experience with Coach Wasserman is it's unspeakable what he was able to teach me, what he was able to give me as a coach and as a person, and our relationship will forever be budding and will forever continue because of the experience I got with him as the varsity tennis coach.
Okay, you can wrap that up because you've had your 2 minutes already. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Jeff Rogers, Scotch Plains. I'm also here for the same reason Brandon's here and a bunch of people are. Coach Wasserman is obviously an incredible guy, and I now play Division I tennis at Fairfield, so I've been around the tennis environment and those tennis circles for a while, and I gotta tell you guys that Coach Wasserman's a pretty special guy. He's kind of a dime a dozen coach. The way that he cares about his players, you don't see that very often, in large part because most guys, they see it almost as like a short-term project, whereas Coach Wasserman really sees it as a long-term project and really is constantly invested in his students, which you also don't often see. And I think that any replacement, again, I respect Mr. Petey in great ways as well. But I just don't think that what Mr. Wasserman brought to the table can really be replicated by anyone in this area, to my knowledge. And I think that letting him go is just not a great decision for the program. I think that what he's built over his past however many years, doing what he's done has been pretty incredible. And the way that he really invests in every player, whether it's me, whether it's someone on the bench, whether it's someone playing, whether they're in and out, the guy really cares, and you don't really see that every day. So, hope you guys consider it.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else coming forward?
Joseph Varela, Scotch Plains. Unlike a lot of the other kids that are here, I actually did not play on the tennis team, but through all the interactions I've had with Coach Gary Wasserman, I've come to know him as a great man and a great coach, and I think you could see by all the people that came out here tonight and all the great athletes that came out here tonight that he's a fantastic coach and he deserves to stay at Scotch Plains High School. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carl Worth, Scotch Plains. My experiences and interactions with Coach Gary Wasserman, I would say, were a little atypical because most of the players here have spent the majority of their careers on varsity. I was on JV for 3 years. My first year on varsity was this year. And what made Coach Wasserman so special is that a lot of the varsity coaches we see in the county and in the area, their focus is really on just the varsity players, but what made Coach Wasserman so unique was he really focused on the entire program. He really saw the JV team as developmental and spent almost equal amounts of time with them as the varsity team, and he just fostered an environment not just of competition and of skill, but also just fun, and that's why I've enjoyed these last 4 years. He just made this such an incredible experience for me, and I don't want the players in the future to lose that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else coming forward?
Norma Tamania, Scotch Plains. I've been on the tennis team for 4 years and I've been on varsity for 3, and I could safely say that Coach Gary Wasserman was one of the hardest people I've ever met. Every time I go to play at LeGrand, he's always there, either coaching or just hitting with ball with other people, and he's always open to hit. And he's so hardworking and passionate, and he's really influenced me in so many ways. And also, on the tennis court, people think, tennis is an individual sport, but even when in tight games, he's always coached me. He helps me through the games. He motivates me every day, and he just had a great influence on me in my everyday life and during the tennis season. And I just hope that you guys reconsider this decision.
Thank you.
Gari Deshpande, Scotch Plains.
Can you speak up a little bit? I can't hear you.
Gari Deshpande, Scotch Plains.
Thank you.
I've known Coach Wasserman for 4 years. I can say from experience that he has helped me build my character and hone my tennis skills. Whether it was at counties, states, or any match, Coach has been the image of gracefulness, determination, and an easygoing attitude. He always pushed us to play our hardest, but he never beat us down on a bad day. Because of him, I always felt comfortable on court, and I knew that there was someone who always had my back. He always told me to have fun on court, and without an experienced person like him being at LeGrand, I don't know who will continue to take the Scotch Plains Fanwood teams to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Larry Glickstein, Scotch Plains. Brandon Glickstein's my son. He's been on the team for 4 years. The whole purpose of why everybody's here is singular, in that we would like to see Gary Wasserman reinstated as the head coach effective immediately. Because what happened, it's not right. He has a passion for the game, for these kids. He gives his all, goes above and beyond, hits with them, beyond on weekends, at nights, doing far more than many other coaches do. And I also want to say, you have 3 boys over here, Jeff Rogers, Kobe Silverstein, and Matt Boxon, who showed up. These kids graduated in 2015. They're going in their senior year now of college. They're here tonight. Jeff Rogers could have played any sport. He was the kid in his grade who was the best athlete. He would have played baseball, soccer, basketball. He would have been the best athlete there. His parents turned him over, and they trusted Gary. And now the result is the fine young man you see today, Division I athlete, because Gary Wasserman, under his tutelage, helped Jeff. This program that we have here, it's not easy, because in some of these other towns like Westfield and Summit and Milburn, these kids, from the time they come out of the womb, their parents are training them on the tennis court. That's not the case in Scotch Plains. It's just not the case. You've got converted baseball players. Kobe was a basketball player. Matthew Haas was a bowler. My son was a baseball player. And Gary takes these converted athletes and creates a tennis team. And 4 years ago, we were the #2 ranked team in the state. And that should count for something. And Gary's the guy that you want at the helm. He is absolutely the guy. Because he's not a teacher here, should not matter. You want the best person for the job, and that's Gary, without question. And the only thing I'll just conclude with is, for anybody here that likes sports, right, the best coach probably of all time is Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick, which these kids probably don't even realize, coached the Cleveland Browns in the 1990s. The same Cleveland Browns that everybody laughs about right now because they can't win. And with that team, he took them to the playoffs. They got rid of them because they thought they could do better. They haven't been to the playoffs since, and the New England Patriots have been to 8 of the last 18 Super Bowls. This guy is Bill Belichick, and if you let him go, you're going to watch him win championships with other teams. So I really hope, and I pray that you guys will consider it and think about the fact that in the middle of June, when you have graduating seniors and you got kids coming back here, we're here for a reason. And that's to hope that we can influence you to do the right thing here and stand behind a guy that should be continuing as the head coach of the varsity team. I know I went over my time. I thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Jean Cleary, Fanwood. It's nice to see you all again. I have to say, everyone spoke so beautifully tonight, so I don't need to re-say what's been said already, but I would, as a former board member, like to encourage you to look at this from more than a Coach Gary Wasserman angle. I have experienced, as well as many of these students who play multiple sports how very different coaches and different programs can look in this district. And my concern is actually that we aren't always being equitable in how we make those decisions of what is allowed and what is not allowed. I'm sure that the board has information that the public doesn't. I understand how that works, but I also know that everyone here has spoken to the fact that there is quite some substance with Gary Wasserman. And while he may not be faultless, he does deserve, as any coach does or any teacher does, to be treated equitably and have the same rules applied. I'm not actually convinced that we're doing that very well right now. I think that when we look at issues, especially at the high school, of culture and climate, there's nothing that drives culture and climate more at a high school than sports, especially in this community. And I think it's really important to get this right and to just be sure that the decisions being made would be the same ones that would be applied in any other situation with any other coach. So I thank you for your time and for all of the patient listening. And I just want to applaud these young men and women for taking their time and coming out. It's never easy to do, but they have great faith in Coach Wasserman, as I do. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cleary. Anyone else from the audience would like to speak? Thank you. Then this closes this portion of the meeting. We appreciate your comments. We hear you. We take your comments into consideration. Thank you. That brings us to the instructional updates, Dr. Hayes?
Yes, we have several instructional updates tonight. Mrs. Rabimbis is going to be presenting to us an update on health and wellness. Do you need the...
We're going to start with the HIB and the SSDS, and then we'll move into the health and wellness.
So we have Caitlin Taggart with us, Caitlin Taggart-Franz.
I know, that's a hard one for you.
I know, I got it. Who is with us tonight, who is going to, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Those of you who wish to stay are welcome to. I don't know how much the rest of the meeting will engage you.
I'm not very
So
excited,
if you choose not to, no offense is taken. So each year, the State Department of Education asks us to do a self-assessment on how we're doing with the harassment, intimidation, and bullying law. And Ms. Taggart is here tonight to update us on that. This self-assessment was accomplished some months ago and was presented to the board, and we have recently been informed by the state board that our self-assessment was approved. So, Ms. Taggart, take it away.
I'm going to basically reiterate what was just said. It's not exciting news, but it's important news and we share it publicly. So, as Dr. Hayes alluded to, our district, as you all know from the many presentations and the opportunities that you have to peek into the harassment, intimidation, and bullying policy and our activities, we're in consistent compliance with the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, New Jersey's harassment, intimidation, and bullying law. Since the inception of the act, our district has conscientiously implemented the requirements and very thoughtfully each year completed an annual self-assessment of these efforts. At this time last year, you, the Board of Education, approved each school's self-assessment and then the composite score for the district. It was presented at a public Board of Ed meeting in June. These self-assessments were submitted to the New Jersey Department of Education, and as was just said, we've now been approved of these scores within the past 2 weeks. As required by the state law, we have posted a link on every school's homepage as well as the district homepage where our community can access the school self-assessment scores that we provided to the state, that you all approved, and that have now been returned to us. Questions?
So it's important to note that there were no changes.
No changes,
The state did not change any of our self-assessments, and normally we would have been doing this report much earlier in the year, but the state seems to be running behind a little bit in getting back to districts. In fact, we've just been notified that it is now time to do the self-assessment for this year.
Just yesterday.
Just yesterday. So we will be completing that. It is due now in October.
End of October.
The end of
They've given
October.
an extension this year because they're running behind on some things.
Okay. All right. Then we're going to move on to what is now.
I'm going to stay put.
Okay, that's what I thought.
We're going to swap things a little in order just because we've combined some things.
Go right ahead.
So we're going to move on to the report that used to be the EVVRS, but is now our SSDS and Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying Report.
Could you just explain what those little acronyms mean?
Sure. So I should, because we're used to EVVRS. SSDS is our Student Safety and Discipline System. Did I get that all right? Data System. I'm still getting used to the new acronym too. I'm used to saying EVVRS. And then our Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying, which falls under that system, they require additional things that we report out at a public Board of Ed meeting. Normally, you'd hear Lisa Rimbus go first, and then I would give you more detail on the harassment, intimidation, and bullying. We're going to swap that tonight, only because I started. I'm going to give you these numbers, then she's going to do our SSDS numbers and lead us into a more comprehensive look at some of our programming in the district. You'll hear from me again at that time, where I'll go back over our trainings and programs. So we're keeping it interesting, changing it up a little bit. So, for harassment, intimidation, and bullying specifically, the following data that you will hear, and the same for Lisa's report, is for the reporting period of September to December 2017, so this past fall. The total number of investigations for harassment, intimidation, and bullying from September to December was 21 investigations, with 4 confirmed cases of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. The status of all those investigations is complete as recorded in our monthly Board of Ed agendas and as approved by you. In terms of bullying that has been based on a protected category, the state asks that we present you with information relative to each protected category in which we experienced a case of bullying. During September to December, we had 1 case based on religion, 1 based on a mental, physical, or sensory disability, 1 based on race or color, and 1 based on ancestry or religion. It is important to note that cases can be also based on a characteristic that is not an identified protected category, and the numbers that I just gave you are not an unduplicated number. 1 case may be based on more than 1 category. The investigators for our September to December time period were Christina Arusi, Amanda Wolf, Jason Cross, and Chrissy Krasovsky at our middle school level, April Trusting and Cesare Medley at our elementary level, and myself at the high school. For discipline that was imposed via our cases, we had parent conferences, student conferences, verbal warnings, after-school detentions, recess detentions, Saturday detentions, in and out of school suspensions, loss of privileges, and police notification. For remediation, there was monitoring by teachers, monitoring by other school staff, including aides, follow-up check-ins with counselors and other support staff, check-in systems were created, schedule changes and separation of students in class, assigned seating and assigned line spots, parents' meetings. Parents were provided guidance on social media, including being advised how to block electronic communications between students and better monitor. Students advised on appropriate social media interactions and technology use. The earning back of privileges, conflict resolution, bystander strategy, education, and skill building activities, coordination with the VOTEC school to ensure that students are safe in both buildings, coaching on conflict resolution and self-advocacy skills. Students were recommended for student leadership activities. Students were also recommended for small group social skills. Police were contacted and worked with us to provide remediation. Counseling services provided both in our schools and also community-based. Students provided group counseling. Assignments provided for reflection and social emotional growth on an independent and also on a group work basis. Empathy building activities, classroom lessons, community service was assigned. Students were instructed to have no contact with each other, warned of future consequences, and there was many referrals to other community-based services to support the students. All right. I'm going to pause. Normally you hear trainings and programs. We're going to come back to that in a minute during the PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you. So as has already been stated, the New Jersey Department of Education updated its reporting system from the Electronic Violence and Vandalism Reporting System, EVVRS, to the SSDS, the Student Safety Data System. The SSDS combines two state reporting systems, the old EVVRS and the Harassment, Intimidation, Bullying, Investigations, Trainings, and Programming System. So now we input all of the information into one system as opposed to two different system reporting places. The data that I am going to report on is based on 5 identified categories by the State Department of Education and is entered biannually into their reporting system. This data is reported publicly to the board 2 times a year. The following data is for the reporting period of September to December 2017. In the category of violence, there were 4 incidences, vandalism, 0 incidences, 1 weapons incident, 16 substance incidences, and 4 confirmed HIB incidences. That's the SSDS report. It's quite short.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on those 2 areas?
Just repeat those one more time.
Sure. For violence, it was 4, vandalism 0, weapons 1, substance 16, and HIB 4.
Thank you.
And are we seeing any trends over time in that data? Does it look like it looked last year or the last few years, or are things?
There is a reduction in our violence category, where in the fall of 16 there were 10, and we reported 4 this year, but we did see an increase in the area of substance, whereas last fall there were 3 incidences, and this year there were 16.
And I'll say relative to confirmed cases of harassment, intimidation, and bullying, we also saw a drop from the previous fall to this fall.
One more question. And the substances, that's predominantly vaping?
Correct.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Rebecca.
Thank you. So we are going to transfer into the health and wellness report, which also combines portions of the HIB reporting. Because we spent time looking at our social emotional programming, which connects to our HIB, we figured it would be best to infuse the 2 reports as opposed to doing it twice. So we need to just set up the projector, and then we can begin.
Sorry. I'm going to sit. Fine. It's now cleared out.
So as everyone knows, this school year, our district had an initiative as part of our strategic plan on health and wellness. So a committee came together, and there were some focus groups that happened before our committee met that discussed what are our current social, emotional, health and wellness programs. We looked at the current health and wellness programs, clicking, through the vantage point of the Centers for Disease Control program. Let's see. I used my computer. Oh, it wasn't working before. We used the School Health Index from the Centers for Disease Control to analyze our program. So the CDC has all of these categories to assess whether your school district or school is meeting certain standards. So as you can see, there's nutrition environments and services, health services, counseling and psychological and social services, social and emotional climate, physical education and health education, employee wellness, family engagement, and community involvement. Previously, I reported to the board curriculum committee, an overview of some of the categories that was going to go to the committee. I've abbreviated that presentation to just focus on the areas that we discussed at our committee meeting. So beginning with physical education and health, at the elementary level, the students have PE or health 40 minutes, 3 times a week. They have 1 time with the physical education teacher, and the rest of the times they're integrated into class with their general education teacher. We use the Health Wave curriculum, and our third grade students participate in the Healthy Life program. At the middle school level, in grades 5 through 8, the students have PE or health 5 times a week for 42 minutes. Our 5th graders participate in the LEAD program, led with in collaboration with our Scotch Plains Police Department, and each grade level has 1 marking period of health, each grade 6, 7, or 8, using our Glencoe Teen Health 1, 2, or 3 with special topics in each grade. At the high school level, the students have PE or health 5 times a week. There's 1 marking period of health. In 9th grade, they study sex education and human sexuality. In 10th and 11th grade, Too Good for Drugs and Violence and driver's education. And in 12th grade, life cycles. This year, our secondary health and physical education program also went a review where they surveyed students and they surveyed staff, and they made some recommendations to articulating the program between the middle schools and the high school. Our health services program, we're fortunate that we have 1 school nurse in each of our elementary schools and 2 school nurses in each of our middle schools and at our high school. They intervene with actual and potential health problems, provide first aid, emergency care and assessment, and plan for the management of chronic conditions. As you'll see tonight, also the nursing healthcare plan is on the board agenda for approval for next school year. You see that they do a great deal in servicing our children and providing an additional support to our families. In the area of counseling, psychological, and social services, we have social groups at each elementary school for selected groups of students. We have individualized school-based counseling per IEP needs and student individual needs, those for general education students. We have classroom lessons implemented by teachers and/or counselors, targeted lessons for groups of students, and individual school-based programs. Kaylin will talk more about some of our specific programming during her portion, but just to highlight some of what our counselors and psychologists do, and social workers. At the high school, there is transition counseling, college and career counseling, and we're fortunate to have the support of Effective School Solutions for a selective group of students who require additional supports during the school day.
As we talked about earlier, normally I give you guys a rundown of all our programming and training as a part of my HIB presentation. At the end I go, whew, because it's a lot. This breaks it up a little bit more, and it gives you an idea of where you see it within each level, and it fits perfectly within the presentation related to health and wellness, and is many of the things we discussed at our meetings through that committee to take a look at how we support the health and wellness of the whole child, specifically meaning our social emotional program. So for district programming, these are activities that occur at all 3 levels of our schools. The Week of Respect activities in the fall, School Violence and Awareness Week activities also in the fall, leadership groups, multicultural events, cross-age teaching activities. These occur within our schools, but then also across our schools, so high school to middle school or high school to elementary. Service groups, daily public service announcements and positive school climate activities, school-wide assemblies on bullying and prevention topics, and new student orientations. Again, all of these occur at all 3 levels. In addition to all of these, the high school also has the Green Dot Bystander Intervention Program, which runs all year, and the Gay Straight Alliance Ally Week activities. In addition to the district-wide components at the middle school, we have the following initiatives: the Caught You Doing Good program, the Ruler Approach, student and staff programming, digital citizenship program, the Kindness Initiative, classroom-based character education lessons, sensory tools for self-regulation, the STAR program, the PALS program, Project Adventure team building activities, and School Spirit Week activities. And again, in addition to the things we run district-wide, at our elementary, we have the following initiatives: the bucket filling program, random acts of kindness program, responsive classrooms programming, teasing and bullying, the 6 essential lessons, social skills programming for targeted populations, and many positive reinforcement activities. In addition to programming, we do a very good job at making sure we provide training and professional development for our teachers, for our staff as a whole, and then also in addition to that, for our parents and our community. So relative to training and professional development, we had the harassment, intimidation, and bullying policy and protected classes training, classroom meetings and establishing classroom respect, teasing and bullying, the 6 essential lessons training, responsive classrooms training, school climate and culture improvement trainings, social skills, cyberbullying, and cyber safety. And again, that's one where we do those both within the school and with the community and parents as a whole. A training about wraparound services and providing full support, transgender student supports training, violence and vandalism prevention, substance abuse prevention, crisis response training, conflict resolution skills, district-wide suicide prevention training, parent law education trainings, resiliency skills for parents and how to teach their kids, and school law training. In addition to the things that we offer within our district, we take great care in making sure that we send our people out to outside professional development and staff trainings that we know are key pieces to making sure we have a safe climate for all our kids. This past fall, we sent staff out to trainings including cyberbullying, school climate and culture improvement, school safety, suicide prevention and intervention and the relationship to bullying, mental health supports within school districts, and the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights law changes and updates.
Just as a point of information, when we reviewed the programs and services and professional development, we focused on all of the events that happened last year. This report only focused on the fall, so that when we reviewed the programs and trainings and that the students and staff participated in, we could get a full picture of what happens during an entire school year. For the purposes of the presentation, we just focused on this fall. Okay. So just to update you on our current counseling, psychological, and social services, we have 2 elementary school psychologists, 2 elementary social workers, 2 middle school counselors at each school, 1 school psychologist at each middle school, 7 guidance counselors at the high school, 1 social worker at the high school, 1 school psychologist at the high school, the district anti-bully coordinator, who is also a school social worker, our district social worker, which is a new position, and Effective School Solutions that we contract with to work with our students at the high school. Another component of wellness is employee wellness, and we did add this to our categories of discussion. The CDC gives a description of what an employee wellness program looks like, and it's a coordinated set of programs, policies, and benefits that support the staff to make sure that we're meeting their health, safety, and their overall wellness needs. The staff currently do receive a monthly newsletter with health and wellness information, and they have participated in mindfulness workshops and other types of workshops within the district that they can choose to do through our professional development initiatives. You've seen the art workshops, for example, the music workshops as well. So the final step, after we evaluated our current program and looked at it through various lenses, through the parent perspective, through the teacher perspective, and most importantly, through the student perspective, we came up with goal areas. And I give you this list because it's quite large, but it was important to get the ideas out of what the committee was thinking about in terms of what they see as needs. So our overarching goals are to increase the sense of community within the schools and in the district, to integrate more mental health supports for students, to increase student skills in social and emotional areas, to increase professional development opportunities for teachers in the areas of social, emotional health, and wellness, to increase parental support and resources, and foster partnerships with local organizations. Within those goal areas, we highlighted, you'll see the bullets, are important areas that the committee believed would be integral to moving forward in a comprehensive way of addressing students' health and wellness. So looking at inter-school collaboration and training for our school climate teams, increasing the current level of service with our newly hired district staff, and looking at ways to use our current staff, reviewing materials to determine programming across the district. As we all know, there is limited time in our instructional day, so making sure that we're making good use of our time and using materials that really build and focus on students' growth at the appropriate levels. Explored tier supports for students. There was a lot of conversation that we do a great deal of programming across the board at different levels, and we do a lot for individualized students, but looking at small groups of students and tiered supports, what other things that we could do to increase our support for kids. In the area of professional development, look at increasing our workshops on selected topics and surveying the staff to see what are some areas of interest that they have. In terms of parent support, again, surveying parents, what topics they're interested in learning about. And the committee felt it was important to ask those questions of what time of day, what day of the week works best for you in the survey, because often we offer workshops and programs and a small number of parents come. So if we have an idea based on the surveys, what is the best time for them, we may be able to gear some workshops at the most appropriate times for the largest number of parents. And we discussed implementing more family engagement activities, and then finally collecting information on local support services. We talked about in our group that different people have different support information, but as community members leave and their connections with those organizations start to dissipate because those connections leave and our staff turns over, we felt it was important to bring together a really comprehensive list of support services that we can provide to parents that would be informational and useful for parents because they often ask us for advice. So just a special thank you to our committee members. Unfortunately, not everyone who was invited to attend was able to attend, but these were the wonderful people that worked with me and Kaylin in this initiative. And I also want to mention that I did meet with different, I'll call them focus groups of people prior to this committee meeting. It was important for me to get a handle on all that the principals, the supervisors, each of our mental health professionals that we have in district, all of their ideas so that I could cohesively design something that would be meaningful for the committee. And the committee did a wonderful job of just brainstorming and being open and sharing their ideas as a group and collectively coming up with those goal areas. So just to highlight, Mrs. Tomasulo, Dr. Vole, Ms. Kelly Covert Montana, Mr. Bortnick, Mr. Donahue, Mr. Cross, Mrs. Irusi, Mrs. Hoffman, Mrs. Franz, Mr. Hernandez, Mr. Costu, and Mr. Kane, that should say, not Kate's, Mr. Peter Kane. And that's it. Any questions?
But you can stay there. If there's no more, we'll go back to our seats for the questions. Thank you. Does the board have any questions or comments for Mrs. Rabimbus or Ms. Franz?
Wow, really nice job bringing it all together. I liked all the action. I was going to reread all the action areas of growth and action steps because they seem to certainly overlap with also our strategic plan in many ways as well. I look forward to hearing about where we get to on which ones you choose to
pursue, but that was really wonderful.
That's our next step.
Yeah. Thank you, Cindy. Is there any other question or comment from the board? I like the tag team approach to your presentation, swapping off and making it very, it moved right along and very succinct to get all the information out there, like the new lineup. And the newsletter that you mentioned, is that something made in-house or is that a professional newsletter?
It's something that actually comes from the business office, from our benefits program. They send it out to us.
Okay, thank you.
So I do have I wanted to say thank you also. That was very thorough. I enjoyed listening to your presentation. I have a question about the district-wide social worker. You said that's a new position?
That's the new budgeted position, correct.
What's the primary role of that social worker going to be?
I don't know if Dr. Hayes, if you want to address that.
So we're in the process of looking at how best to deploy that person. We did not want to make a rush to judgment before we knew who the person was that we were appointing. And now that we know, and we know what that person's skill sets, and we already have Kaylin Taggart-Franz, who has been working in this area, we're going to be sitting down with them and Mrs. Rabimbis and making a decision as how best to use a complementary approach. We don't necessarily want to just say, you will only do this and you will only do that, because they know on any given day when they have to collaborate or have backup for one another, issues can evolve in any school at any time. On the other hand, we know that based upon the reporting that you heard tonight, there are certain basic levels of supportive programs that we want to put in place, and we want to be sure that people are assigned to do those things so that schools know on a regular basis who will be there when. So that's what we're going to be working on together, and we'll keep you updated as we get into the fall.
I guess I did have one more. I always ask you this, Caitlin, sort of now, because how many years is it now that we've been doing HIV? I always ask you it.
7.
7? So lessons from year 7, or saying, anything that has struck you this year as you're moving on, because it has been, the learning curve was really steep, and now you're really running with it, it seems to me. I didn't know whether there's anything that strikes you from this year.
Every year, it's like we gain greater clarification, and I keep thinking each year we can't gain any more clarification, and then we get new clarification. I think one of the things that we have really focused on this year is, particularly in my role, working with our elementary schools and how we can do more of that in the class skill building. And the teachers really do want that, so that then when you guys are getting all of the reports at the middle school level, which is our conflict years, we might be having less of those as we're doing more of the skill building. So we've done a little bit more of looking at how teachers can grow some of that skills, and a lot more direct work with me and the principals, and making sure we get into classrooms where we're having specific issues with certain groups of kids, so that we're doing more of that early. That's been one of the kind of key pieces this year that we've been working on, but it's always something new every year. And additionally, the state has made some changes this year that we're looking at for next year. We're still waiting for some guidance on them, so that'll be kind of one of the interesting things to see coming. Some of the small adjustments that they've made to the laws and the rules, nothing big and drastic, but that'll be one of those things that we've already started looking at this year, which is kind of a revelation for us after 7 years. This is the first time they've made some adjustments, and then we'll start to implement those next year. So that was kind of a new piece for us this year as well.
And related to that, if we move forward with making any of those adjustments, our policy will have to be adjusted as well, and that will have to go through the policy committee, because those policies also have to be shared with the county office of the New Jersey Department of Ed if we make any of those changes.
Thank you.
So I just want to add my thanks to both of you, and also just celebrate the fact that when we gave you this charge in terms of moving us forward with that strategic planning goal, I particularly appreciate your thoughtfulness in using the CDC's School Health Index framework, because I do believe that that has real value, and it will help us to focus on areas of strengths, areas where we want to grow, And it helps us be responsive to the fact that there are so many programs out there. Anti-bullying work has become a very prominent conversation publicly, across the nation, as well as locally. And there are many valid programs, but we want to be sure that any programs that we bring into the district have been well vetted and meet our needs and aren't creating situations where some programming becomes so repetitive that it has the actual opposite effect of what you want it to have, because kids are smart. And, we need to keep it fresh and interesting for them. Otherwise, it doesn't take root. So my thanks for your very thoughtful approach to all the committee members and stakeholders that you engaged. And the board should recognize that this is only one aspect of what we're doing. As we're focused on the health and wellness, concomitantly, we're focused on school safety and security. And there's a big intersection in those pieces. So if you think of a giant Venn diagram, there's a lot of overlap. And we certainly have had great support this year in terms of moving forward with some of the school safety and security pieces, but we also know that the mental health pieces are equally important. So my thanks to all of you for your good work.
Thank you. Moving on to committee reports.
Before we
Oh,
do,
excuse
we
me.
have one more update, and that is Mrs. Rabimbis. It's our turn again.
That's right, we went out of order.
And this is the local district special ed report, which is always, has a year's lag time. So tonight, she will be presenting the data for the 2016-17 school year.
So each year, the New Jersey Department of Education publishes the local district special education report. As Dr. Hayes said, the information I will present this evening represents data collected by the DOE for the 16-17 school year. This year's report gives an analysis of data in the following categories: graduation rates, dropout rates, assessment, suspension/expulsion, it's a performance indicator and a compliance indicator, school age least restrictive environment, preschool least restrictive environment, preschool outcomes data, parent involvement, disproportionality in special education, effective general supervision Part B or child find, early childhood transition compliance indicator, secondary transition, and post-secondary transition outcomes. There are certain areas that the district is not in cohort for. The state chooses groups to give analysis of data on, so there are some areas that we were not given data on, just so that you know. Overall, the district met or exceeded the state target in 9 of the categories. We met or exceeded in the areas of high school graduation, dropout rates, suspension/expulsion in both indicators for performance and compliance, our preschool least restrictive environment, parent involvement, disproportionality in racial and ethnic groups in special education and specific disability categories, meaning that we were not found to have a disproportionate number of students in any of those categories, and early childhood transition. The district partially met the state target for school-age least restrictive environment, where we exceeded state expectations for the percentage of general education students that are in general education 80% of the day or more. We also met the indicator for being in general education 40% or more. So this specific area had 3 subtopics. We met those 2, but we did not meet the state target of the percentage of students served in public or private separate schools. So the state target was 7.2 of having students at out-of-district placements. Locally, we had 10.6% of our students placed in out-of-district placements. We also did not meet the indicator for child find. We received 98% consent for initial evaluation within the the established time frame by the state's target was 100%. And sometimes the reason that we don't get the consent within the time frame is because the parents want some additional time to think about their decisions. So that sometimes puts us off of our time targets. We also did not meet state expectations for the participation rate for students with IEPs and state assessment. The state target was 95% participation for students with IEPs in state assessments. The district was at 89.9% participation in English and 91.8% participation in mathematics, both increases from the previous year. Okay. Overall, the state report shows the district continues to serve our students with disabilities within the district in the least restrictive environment, while ensuring student graduation rates exceed state expectations and have a dropout rate of 0% for our students with disabilities. Additionally, I think it's important to note that the state highlighted that we do not have a discrepancy in our rates of suspensions of students with disabilities and for students with IEPs and racial and ethnic groups. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Rubimbis. Anybody has any questions for Mrs. Rubimbis?
Those areas that we didn't meet the, target, do we then have to do a plan, or do you have to do a plan to follow up, or?
At this point, we're not required to do a plan. There are, in other areas, not through special education, but through other areas, for example, there are areas where we have to develop a plan for participation in state assessments, for example. But as far as the special ed area goes, at this time, we don't need to do any corrective action plans.
Through the curriculum committee, Dr. Mast shares that around the park participation, yes, we do have to have a plan in place to do our best to increase participation in park. It is something of an uphill battle, and given the fact that there are some people at the State Department that have messaged out that they're now looking at state assessments once again, because some of the people in Trenton have suggested that park should go away. It's hard to sometimes encourage people to take it when at the same time people are saying it should go away. The other area that you should note as a board is that each year the state lowers the percentage of students that we should be placing in out-of-district placements. In the previous one, I believe it was 7.4%. This year, for the 16-17 school year that was just reported on, it was down to 7.2%. But at the same time, that's an area that is often subject to litigation. Because when parents really want their child in an out-of-district placement, then we have to go through due process processes, regulations. So it's not an area where we have total control, though the state would like us to.
I think so. Kind of reverse. In regards to the assessments that they're using for this, is that generally park?
Yes.
And would that have contributed to why we weren't meeting those percentages because it was fairly new, or how do our percentages compare to years past?
There's an increase in participation in from years past. So each grade level has an increase compared to the previous year.
Okay.
And our overall as well, our overall percentage increased.
Right. But to note, this is a report on special education. Right. If you look at our overall percentage of participation in park for our general ed students, we also, at certain grade levels, do not meet the 95%. Right. Because there are parents that choose not to have their children take park. So my thanks again to Mrs. Rubimbis for reporting out and also for all the fine work that's being done in special education. It's very noteworthy to see the places where we are in compliance, and some of those do have real relevance. not being out of compliance with disproportionality in terms of identifying students for special ed or for suspension is very important. And we've worked very carefully on that over the years to ensure that we are only identifying the students that should be identified and that we do so in a very fair and equitable way. So again, give my best to your staff and for everybody that's helped to keep us moving forward in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. Committee reports. Does anybody have a committee report? I do. Yes. So try to let everybody else go first. Okay, this is for the Curriculum Committee. We met on June 4th. We had an update of the physical education curriculum by Mildred Well and Peter Kane. The team from the physical education teachers with representatives from elementary, middle, and high school worked together to review the curriculum and to make recommendations for updates moving forward. The recommendations were based on the current state requirements and national trends in this area. The team also surveyed high school juniors and seniors to bring a student voice to the process, particularly in the area of health education. Next, we had a District Health and Wellness Committee update by Mrs. Rabimbas. Mrs. Rabimbas highlighted all the areas of health and wellness that were addressed in the district programming, and that is what Mrs. Rabimbas had reported out this evening. Next, we had Business Education Proficiencies presented by John Veninger. He brought updated proficiencies for the following high school courses. Business Law, course number H7572. Business Technology course number H7532. And the Pre-Calculus course number H2402. Next, we had the STEAM Scope and Sequence presented by the District STEAM team. The District STEAM team is made up of district teachers and administrators. They reported out that the work that they had accomplished this year and presented a scope and sequence that will be used as a communication tool and a foundation to build STEAM curriculum programs throughout the K-12 curriculum sequence. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Mast did the Student 2018 Summer Assignments. She presented the summer assignments, and each year the district curriculum supervisors create 3 assignments to help the students prepare for the fall semester. The curriculum committee reviewed these assignments for board approval, and then they will be posted on the district website. That concludes my report. Any questions? Thank you. Is there any other reports this evening? Well, one other thing, I attended the MAC meeting on May 30th, and they were wrapping up all of their budgets and getting ready and planning for next year. Okay, next we have letters to the board. One LET, receipt of an email dated May 30th from Ethan Filler, Weston Fisher, and Joseph Kowalczyk regarding student safety. Letter number 2, receipt of an email dated June 11th, 2018 from Brandon Glickstein as a personnel matter and referred to executive session. Next, superintendent's report. Dr. Hayes.
Tonight, I would ask that the board take action on 1S, which is out-of-district placements for the extended school year for 2018. The first one is actually a revised one. We had previously looked at this, but it had to be, in your original packet, it had to be adjusted to include the administrative costs relative to that placement. So we have one for student case number 1812, one for student case number 1208, and one for student case number 1813. So what I would ask that the board approve those extended school year placements this evening.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you. At our next meeting, I will ask that the board approve the harassment, intimidation, and bullying reports that were shared with the board in exec session on May 10th and May 24th. And you'll also be asked to approve the June HIT report so that we don't have to hold them over until September. 3S, I will ask that the board acknowledge the harassment, intimidation, and bullying self-assessments for the 16-17 school year. That's the report that Kaylin presented to you this evening, our self-assessments. 4S, I will ask that the board approve the harassment, intimidation, and bullying and the SSDS reports that were given tonight by both Kaylin Franz and Mrs. Rabimbis. And this will be for the period of September 2017 to December 2017, so that we can submit them to the New Jersey Department of Education. And 5S, at our next meeting, I will ask that the board approve the following curriculums that were released from the Board Curriculum Committee: Business Law course, the Business Technology course, and the Pre-Calculus course that were just reported on, and then the Summer 18 assignments, as well as the STEAM scope and sequence and related professional development that is connected with that. 6S, I will ask that the board acknowledge the receipt of the biannual gifts to schools. School 1, Coles, and the high school, Park, and Brunner did receive gifts the second half of the year. 7S, I will be asking that the board will approve the special education 2018 summer field trips and the school year field trips that we anticipate for the 2018-19 school year. And 8S, we will ask that the board approve the matrix of forms that were reviewed and updated by Lisa Rabimbis. These are done annually at this time. 9S, I will ask that the board approve the 2018-19 school nurses plan, again prepared under the direction of Lisa Rabimbis. And 10S, I will ask that the board make its annual approval for the superintendent to take action while the board is in recess. When we return in August, the board will get to approve anything that I've needed to move forward during the summer. And 11S, we will ask that the board approve the continued use of the Danielson rubric for teacher evaluation and the Marshall rubric for administrator and supervisor evaluation for the 2018-19 school year. Finally, tonight, I would ask that the board approve the personnel agenda as reviewed in exec this evening.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, excuse me, roll call vote. Deb, would you please call the roll?
Sure.
Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Ms. Boroff?
Yes.
Dr. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Sorry. Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Winkler? That's it.
Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. Moving on to the business functions, Mrs. Saradaki. Okay, 1 BUS, I'll be asking for the approval of staff training. Do we have a report this?
Yes, we do.
Okay, that wasn't asterisk. So I would like to ask the board to approve the staff training on the superintendent's recommendations report dated June 14th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. That was actually 1 BUS. Okay, 2 BUS, I'll be asking at the next meeting for the board to acknowledge receipt of disbursement listings for the month of May 2018. BBUS, I'll be asking for the board to acknowledge receipts of the school district's fire and security drill reports for the months of May and June 2018. For BUS, I'll be asking for the board to acknowledge report of the bus drills held January and June for all district routes through June, it should be, for the spring bus drills. 5 BUS, I'll be asking for approval, actually, that I again am asking for tonight, as that is related services pertaining to the balance of this school year. So that would be related service vendors for the ESY, which is in the first part of your motion, resolution, and the second part is 2017-18. Do I have that right, Lisa?
Yes, it's additional costs that we need.
Additional costs for this year, for the OT charges from Sensory Smart and Kathleen Graziano.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. 6 BUS, I'll be asking for the board's approval this evening on the high school copy center, and that is a 60-month lease beginning May 1st, 2018, ending May 2nd, 2023 through Rico USA. This is a contract that our attorney has reviewed, and we've had changes made in the contract. And so this is a company we've been dealing with for about 15 years now in our copy center.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. 7 BUS will be asking for the approval of frontline renewals. This is at a cost of $85,266.93 for 2018-19 school year. This is for our absence and substitute management, applicant tracking, time and attendance, IEP direct, employee evaluation management, PL, and training library and professional learning management. You'll see that the training library has a cost of $0 for next year, and that's because Dr. Mask was very good at negotiating with the company because we hadn't received the training to start using it. And so since we paid for it for this past year, they're not going to charge us for next year. Also, we were able to negotiate reductions in some of the costs, such as IEP Direct, which was about 35% increase, and they moved down to 10%. So they kind of, right now, Frontline has kind of a monopoly since they bought up several different companies. So we're going to keep an eye on that as well as look at what options are available for the following year. 8 BUS, I'll be asking for approval of the existing master agreements with our 4 negotiating units, the SPF BOE, the Administrators Group, the Supervisors Association, and International Brotherhood of Teamsters. 9 BUS covers all of our non-public agreements that Union County Ed Services handles for us. Special education tuition, special education tuition for ESY, professional services, such as child study team evaluations. They handle the non-public school textbook money that we get from the state to pass on to the non-publics, same with the non-public technology, the non-public school nursing, and non-public security aid. They also work with us on non-public IDEA monies that we receive, non-public Chapter 192, 193 services, and we're going to, this year, start asking them to work with us on the ESEA non-public money, Title I only. 10 BUS, I'll be asking for renewal of the tuition agreement with Union County VOTEC schools. There is no increase in the tuition for next year. 11 BUS, I'll be asking for a bid award for our lease purchase for 2018-19. We'll be opening those bids on the 26th. So you'll have the bid list for the meeting on the 28th. 12 BUS, I'm asking for the board's renewal of our contract with Energy for America for 2018-19. They manage our heat and air conditioning in our schools, and that program is a 2% increase for a total of $90,168. 13 BUS, I'll be submitting to the board a list of all of our contracts that have been approved for this year and what changes we're anticipating for next year in those contracts. 14 BUS, I'll be asking for approval of our E-rate consultant who assists us with applying for our E-rate monies, and that fee has not changed. It's $4,800 a year. 15 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to reappoint Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services for the 2018-19 school year as our insurance risk manager. 16 BUS, I'll be asking the board to reappoint Centric Benefits Consulting as the employment benefit agent for the district for health and dental insurance. 17 BUS, I'll be asking for the appointment of the architect of record, Potter Architects, for 2018-19 school year. 18 BUS, I'll be asking for renewal of the appointment of bond counsel, Phoenix Advisors, with no change in their fee for the amount of $4,000 per year. They also assist us with our lease purchase included in that fee, and they also file bond reporting that is required now annually on our behalf. 19 BUS, I'll ask for board approval of the board policy manual as it's currently written. 20 BUS, I'll be asking for transfer of current year surplus to reserve. The dollar amounts in this are the same dollar amounts we had last year. They do definitely greatly exceed the money that we will have left over at the end of the year, but that gives us time to talk with our auditors and determine what to do with the money once they determine the actual number. 21 BUS, I would like the board to consider this evening. It's our district general insurance. You can see a list of the costs here. I'm asking the board to authorize me to purchase the following insurance for the district for 2018-19 at an annual cost of $919,926. The increase is 20.1%. The majority of you'll see there is an increase in environmental liability of 11.7%. Most of that is for increased coverage. It is not due to any increase on behalf of the carrier, but that we've reduced many of our deductibles. It's increased our coverage. Workers' compensation, it's gone up 35.6%, and that was because of they did consider the fact that we've had very good coverage with New Jersey SIG. What that is the last year that we were with sober workers' comp, we had a very bad year that year, and initially our renewal was going to be about $570,000. Our agent on our behalf went back to them and said, you know, our record was very good for the past 3 years, and would they consider lowering our insurance? And they did by almost $100,000. So to go with New Jersey SIG for our workers' comp, we do have to commit to 3 years. So I'm just letting the board know here that this is the first year of a 3-year commitment to renew with them.
And what's the increase? Is there a maximum increase they can go year 2 or year 3? Could they keep increasing 35% year over year?
It's an actual formula based on our claims. So if our claims are very, very high, but our claims this year were very good. If our claims skyrocket, that year will be taken into consideration because they take a 4-year period. Well, it's actually a 3-year period, not including the current year. So they took into consideration the past 3 years, not including this year, in determining our rate.
Is there a schedule that dictates what the percentage increase would be based on a number of incidents?
It's based on the total dollar value.
Right. So,
yes.
But there's a schedule for that?
Yes.
Debbie, is there a max on that? Maximum they can increase?
No.
So so us agreeing to this, they could potentially double it next year and we wouldn't have a choice. Could we pull out of it
They
and use it
could,
different?
but they would do it based on the formula, so if they won't be doing that, because our year this year has been very good. So the 3 years they'll be using are much lower. The real high year was the year that will be dropping off in the consideration for next year.
So we should anticipate
Relatively
we have a
flat.
relatively good year.
Yes.
Flat to a decrease, potentially.
Potentially decrease?
It can. Payments of invoices for...
Motion on the insurance?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you.
Is there a motion? So moved.
Can I just ask a follow-up question?
Can we have the second first?
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Okay, questions, comments?
The follow-up was just so if I understand you right, whatever company we went with would use the same formula?
Not necessarily.
Oh,
But we
okay.
did get other bids this year, and they were higher.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Ms. Clancy. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Cost of insurance.
22 BUS, I'll be asking for the ability of the business administrator to process invoices through August 2018 with confirmation of all those bills paid in August 2018. 23 BUS, I'll be asking the board to approve parliamentary procedures that the board follows, which are guided by Robert's Rules of Order. 24 BUS, I'll be asking the board to use the Uniform Minimum Chart of Accounts for New Jersey Public Schools for the 2018-19 school year. 25 BUS, I'll be asking the board to approve the collection and maintenance of student records in the authorized categories and will regulate access pursuant to New Jersey Title 6A 32-7 to ensure the educational welfare of the students of the district. 26 BUS, I'll be asking that the board authorize the superintendent or designee to approve such line item budget transfers as are necessary between Board of Education meetings, and such transfers shall be reported to the Board of Education, ratified and recorded in the minutes of the next regular meeting. 27 BUS, I'll be asking for the establishment of the 2018-19 petty cash fund. And there's no change in the dollar amount. The fund will be set at $1,000 with no individual expenditure to exceed $150. 28 BUS, I'll be asking the board to approve the 403B tax shelter annuity brokers, which are AXA Equitable, First Investors Corp., FTJ Fund Choice, Lincoln Financial, Lincoln Investment Planning, and VALIC. And I'll be asking the board in 29 BUS to approve the 457 tax shelters of AXA, FTJ Fund Choice, and MetLife Insurance Company. 30 BUS, I'll be asking for the approval of the vendors for the Rep Theater production, which should be submitted to us before the meeting on the 28th. They're in the process of interviews right now, so. 31 BUS, I'll be asking for the approval of pay schools for cafeteria QSP system at a total cost of $2,696.65 for the 2018-19 school year. 32 BUS, I'll be asking for your approval this evening for submission of the ESEA, that should say 2019, ESEA Consolidated Grant. And that is, the due date for that is June 30th, and so if we wait till the 28th, that doesn't give us much time to actually do the submission. So we wanted to get your approval to submit for that grant.
We have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
33 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to acknowledge receipt of the board secretary's reports, the treasurer of school fund reports, and budget adjustments for the month of May 2018. 34 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to approve the bills for the period of May 19th through June 22nd, 2018, in the amount of, to be determined. And 35 BUS, I'd like the board to consider this evening. It's approval of the submission of the 2019 IDEA grant for the basic and preschool. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And the last item is 36 BUS, and that is the 3M Security Window Film Project. This is film that will cover all the exterior doors on the schools at this point. You'll see the information that was attached did not include tinting for all of the glass, which is very helpful. And so the total amount would be $113,217.36. This will include, it would include these two doors. If there was a window immediately next to the door, it would include the window also, because somebody could potentially break through that window to open the door. So, and it'll include things like the wall at Terrell, that's an exterior glass wall. So this will cover all 8 buildings, all exterior doors, as well as any adjacent windows. So, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Discussion, go ahead, Deb.
So the regular windows, it's not covered, does not include, would there be plans to maybe put that in the future for the other
That
windows?
was just suggested, there was a suggestion made at a meeting that we were recently at, and we will consider. Actually, they were looking, that would be different because the police want to be able to see through the entrance doors. But the classroom windows could potentially be done with something that you cannot see through from the outside. You can see through from the inside. So that is an option we will look at.
Thank you.
Sarah Jackie, does the price include installation of the film, or do we install the film? It includes the installation. The company you're buying from? It's only warranted if they install it. They have to be certified installer.
Thank you.
Any other?
So you said this film that would go on the windows is not tinted?
It will be.
It will be tinted? So that you can see out but not in?
No, you'll still be able to see out and in. It will just keep the sun glare, which does, the difference in the cost between the tinted and the untinted is 30 cents per square foot, which overall does not add up to a lot in the total price, but it will help energy-wise.
Okay, neat.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And I think that's, can I ask a question about one of the items that we're not voting on tonight? The front line, you gave each piece of what the total increase or decrease. What's the overall total increase? Do you happen to know? I'm sorry, Deb.
I will have that on the next agenda.
Okay, figure it out. Okay. I didn't want to, I can't do it in my head either.
There was 7 years.
Yeah, I'll have it on the next.
Okay, thank you.
And then that concluded business. That's the end of business. Thank you, Mrs. Saragaki. Okay, then we go to board policies.
Okay. So I believe that at our last meeting, Tanya gave the report about all these changes, so I won't go into details, but at this meeting, I would move that the board approve second and final reading. No, I would make that motion at the next meeting, which I won't be at, but hopefully Tanya will make that move, make that motion, for final adoption of the following policies. Policy and Regulation 1550, Equal Employment anti-discrimination practices, policy 1581, victim of domestic or sexual violence, policy 2431, athletic competition, regulation 2431.2, medical examination prior to participation on a school-sponsored interscholastic or intramural team or squad, policy 2431.8, varsity letters for interscholastic extracurricular activities, policy and regulation 5350, student suicide prevention, policy and regulation 8462, reporting potentially missing or abused children, policy 5460, high school graduation, policy 5465, early graduation to be abolished because it's included elsewhere now. Policy 5533, student smoking. Policy 5535, passive breath alcohol sensor device. Policy and regulation 5561, use of physical restraint and seclusion techniques for students with disabilities. Policy 7446, school security program. And that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkler. Is there any new board business? Other board business, requests to attend workshops. Any workshop reports? Seeing none. OBB2, adoption resolution for negotiating services for next time, to recommend that the Board of Ed approves the following resolution on negotiating services. Someone will read that. OBB3, appointment of treasurer school monies. OBB4, Nisavachi agreement for the audit of June 2018. OBB5, legal counsel for special education. And then tonight, we need a vote on OBB6, safe route to school project. Anybody want to read the motion?
I'll move it.
Amy?
I'd like to move that the board approve the following resolution. Whereas it is our understanding that Scotch Plains proposes creating safe walking and biking routes for Scotch Plains near Brunner, Coles, and Terrell sidewalks. Whereas this project serves school walkers and bicyclists on the route to school. And whereas this Safe Routes to School project will provide a much-needed safety improvement in the area and will clearly provide a much safer transportation experience for student walkers and bike riders, as well as students with disabilities and the general population of pedestrians and bicyclists in Scotch Plains. And whereas the project will make the route to one of the district's schools much safer. And whereas it is our belief that the proposed activities are consistent with the goals of the Safe Routes to Schools program and the policies of the Scotch Plains Fanwood School District, and that funding this project would provide a significant opportunity for the Township of Scotch Plains to improve student safety in the Township of Scotch Plains. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Scotch Plains Fanwood School District as follows. The Scotch Plains Fanwood School District fully supports the Township of Scotch Plains' efforts in seeking New Jersey Department of Transportation's Safe Routes to Schools funds and will collaborate to support the goal of the project, namely to improve safety, encourage walking and biking to school, and to improve the walking and biking environment for students of the district and other users of the routes.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now the approval of the minutes. It's asterisked, but I don't remember seeing the minutes.
No, it shouldn't.
As I say, I didn't see it. Thank you. So next time, we will approve minutes from May 10th, both the open agenda meeting, executive session, and the public meeting. May 24th, executive session and the public meeting. In accordance with Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools Bylaws 0164 and 0165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comments, with a maximum of 2 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing the business functions and any other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. You come to the podium, please give your name and the town in which you reside.
Hi, Ryan Cleary, Fanwood. I just had a question regarding like school safety. At the high school, currently they just created a new classroom for next year up in the upstairs wing by the library, and it has one exit and entry, which is the door going out to the hallway. Other classrooms around the area of the building only have, well, they have 2 doors and a window. Like my global class has a separate door going into the upstairs library as a second entry and exit with a window, and that's being plugged up, so now there's only going to be one exit and entry into that room, similar to the new room that was just built. So I was wondering if that like follows the codes, or if like that is more safe than having 2 exits and entries.
Sarah Daggy, I'll defer to you.
Yes, it does, because the capacity of the room is greater, but there won't be more than a class of approximately 25 students in it, and one exit is supposed to be safe for that size group.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sarah Daggy. Thank you, Mr. Cleary. Is there anybody else that wants to address the board? Seeing no one, then we'll close this portion of the meeting. The remarks for the good of the order. Anybody have remarks?
I've been attending a lot of concerts. We had Terrell's instrumental music concert the other night, which was quite good. And, you know, we've got a lot of celebratory end-of-year activities coming up, I believe, it conflicts, unfortunately, with McGinn's moving up, but the high school senior projects are going to be done next week. Tomorrow, there's a great opportunity, the Patty Workshop. Our group, maybe Dr. Mass can just say 2 sentences about Patty. That's an initiative that we did in terms of performance assessments, and the high school students are engaged in that tomorrow morning.
Yes, high school students will be presenting their capstone work from that class, where they're focused on celebrating people who make a difference in the community.
So retrospectively, we've had a lot of good things going on, and a lot of celebrations continue now through next week, with the capstone being graduation a week from tonight.
And tomorrow's the senior prom, so that'll be exciting, right?
Yes.
There you go. I thought it happened already, so I was kind of shocked when they said it's tomorrow.
They saved the best for last. Yes. Okay, any other remarks, comments? Okay, seeing none. Can I remind you that we have our next board meeting on June 28th, regular public meeting at 7:30. No meetings in July. And then we come back August 30th for a regular public meeting at 7:30. Graduation, if those of you who are participating, to please arrive by 5:30 at Dr. Heisey's office over at the high school.
And they'll also be meeting on June 18th.
Well, June 18th, yes, at 7 p.m. for a very special review of our recent documents, our evaluation. Okay.
That is an advertised meeting, but it's totally in exec session.
So please review the document that I did send you, so that when we come in, we'll be ready to work on that. All right, can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second? Second. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Meeting on Monday is 7.